The morning of June 28, 1914, casts bright sunlight over Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia-Herzegovina, a province uneasily swallowed by the Austro-Hungarian Empire 6 years prior. A sense of anticipation, mingled with a palpable hum of tension, hangs in the air. Today, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the Austro-Hungarian throne's heir presumptive, and his wife, Sophie, Duchess of Hohenberg, are making an official visit. Their motorcade, a procession of open-top cars, snakes through the city streets, past cheering crowds and curious onlookers. The Archduke, clad in a light blue military tunic, waves to the throngs, seemingly blind to the lurking dangers. Sophie, elegant in a white dress and wide-brimmed hat, smiles beside him. But among the well-wishers, a darker current flows. 7 young Bosnian Serb nationalists, members of a revolutionary group known as Young Bosnia, are strategically positioned along the route. They are armed, their hearts burning with a fervent desire for a unified South Slav state, free from Habsburg chains. Their target, the Archduke, a symbol of imperial oppression. The first attempt comes from Nedeljko Chabranovic, who throws a hand grenade at the Archduke's car. It bounces off the convertible's folded back and explodes beneath the following vehicle, tearing into several officers and bystanders. The Archduke, miraculously untouched, is shaken but insists on continuing his itinerary. He is a man of duty, perhaps a man of fatalism. After a brief reception at the town hall, where Franz Ferdinand famously scolds the mayor for the failed assassination attempt, the motorcade is rerouted. The plan is to visit the injured officers in the hospital. This change, however, proves to be a fateful error. The new route is not communicated effectively to all the drivers. As the Archduke's car, a Greff Unstift open touring car, makes a wrong turn onto Franz Joseph Street, it stalls while attempting to reverse. This unexpected halt places it directly in front of Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old Bosnian Serb student who had, by chance, positioned himself near a delicatessen after his own earlier assassination attempt had failed. Princip, seizing the unforeseen opportunity, draws his FN. Browning Model 1910 pistol. He fires 2 shots at point-blank range. The first bullet strikes Sophie in the abdomen, severing an artery. She slumps forward, dying almost instantly. The second bullet pierces Franz Ferdinand's neck, severing his jugular vein. He cries out, "Sophie, Sophie. Don't die. Live for our children," before losing consciousness. Within minutes, both are dead. The immediate aftermath is chaos. Princip is apprehended, beaten by the crowd, and taken into custody. The world, however, is yet to grasp the seismic implications of these 2 gunshots in a quiet Balkan city. The assassination sends shockwaves across Europe. While not entirely unprecedented, political assassinations were a grim reality of the era. The target's stature and the volatile geopolitical climate elevate this event to a crisis of unprecedented proportions. Austria-Hungary, already a multi-ethnic empire grappling with internal nationalist movements, views the assassination as a direct attack on its sovereignty and prestige. They are convinced that Serbia, the neighboring independent South Slav kingdom, is behind the plot, providing weapons and training to groups like Young Bosnia. This conviction, though not entirely accurate in its direct attribution of state sponsorship, fuels a desire for decisive action. For weeks, the Austro-Hungarian government, led by Foreign Minister Leopold Berchtold and Chief of the General Staff Franz Conrad von Hertzendorf, deliberates its response. There is a strong faction within Vienna that sees this as an opportune moment to crush Serbia once and for all, eliminating a perceived existential threat to the empire's stability. However, Austria-Hungary knows it cannot act alone. It needs the backing of its powerful ally, Germany. On July 5, 1914, Count Hoyos, a special envoy from Vienna, arrives in Berlin to seek German support. Kaiser Wilhelm II, Germany's impulsive and often erratic emperor, and his chancellor Theobald von Bethmann-Hollweg assure Austria-Hungary of Germany's blank check. This unqualified pledge of support is a pivotal moment, effectively giving Vienna carte blanche to deal with Serbia as it sees fit, regardless of the consequences. Armed with this assurance, Austria-Hungary prepares an ultimatum to Serbia. The demands are deliberately severe, designed to be unacceptable, thereby providing a pretext for war. On July 23, 1914, the Austro-Hungarian ambassador to Serbia, Baron Gisela von Gieslingen, delivers the ultimatum to the Serbian government. It consists of 10 points, including demands for the suppression of anti-Austrian propaganda, the dissolution of nationalist organizations, and, crucially, allowing Austro-Hungarian officials to participate in the Serbian investigation into the assassination and the subsequent suppression of subversive movements within Serbia. Serbia is given 48 hours to respond. The terms of the ultimatum are indeed humiliating and infringe upon Serbia's sovereignty. Russia, Serbia's traditional protector and a fellow Slavic nation, immediately expresses its outrage. France, allied with Russia, watches anxiously. Great Britain, though not directly allied with Russia and France in a military pact, is increasingly concerned by the escalating crisis. On July 25, 1914, Serbia responds to the ultimatum. To the surprise of many, they accept almost all of the demands, only refusing the point that would allow Austro-Hungarian officials to participate in the internal investigation, citing constitutional grounds. They propose submitting the dispute to international arbitration. Austria-Hungary, however, is not seeking a diplomatic resolution. The blank check from Germany has emboldened them, and the desire to punish Serbia outweighs any inclination towards peace. On July 28, 1914, exactly 1 month after the assassination of the Archduke, Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. The declaration is delivered by telegram. The first shots of this localized conflict are fired shortly thereafter, as Austro-Hungarian artillery shells Belgrade, the Serbian capital, across the Sava River. The declaration of war immediately triggers a complex web of alliances and military mobilization plans that have been meticulously crafted over decades. Russia, seeing itself as the protector of Slavic peoples, and with its own strategic interests in the Balkans, begins a partial mobilization of its vast army on July 29th. This is a crucial step, as military mobilization in the early 20th century is a slow, intricate, and often irreversible process, perceived by other powers as an act of war itself. Russia's general staff, however, soon realizes that a partial mobilization is impractical and inefficient. Their plans are designed for full mobilization. On July 30, 1914, Tsar Nicholas II of Russia, after some hesitation and under pressure from his generals, orders a full mobilization of the Russian army. This decision is a red line for Germany. Germany's military strategy, particularly the Schlieffen Plan, relies on a rapid defeat of France in the west before the slow-moving Russian army can fully mobilize and pose a threat in the east. A full Russian mobilization means that Germany will face a two-front war, a scenario they desperately want to avoid. Germany, through its ambassador to Russia, Count Friedrich von Portels, warns Russia that its mobilization is an act of aggression. On July 31, Germany issues an ultimatum to Russia, demanding that it halt its mobilization within 12 hours. Simultaneously, Germany sends an ultimatum to France, asking for a declaration of neutrality in the event of a German-Russian war, and as a guarantee, demanding control of the French fortresses of Toul and Verdun. France, knowing that remaining neutral would leave Russia vulnerable and its own security compromised, refuses. The ultimatums expire without a positive response. On August 1, 1914, Germany declares war on Russia. The die is now cast. The localized conflict in the Balkans has metastasized into a continental crisis. France, bound by its alliance with Russia, begins its own general mobilization. The intricate dance of alliances, once conceived as a deterrent to war, now acts as a mechanism for its rapid escalation. Great Britain, initially hesitant and attempting to mediate the crisis, finds itself increasingly drawn into the unfolding catastrophe. Its primary concern is the balance of power in Europe and the security of its empire. While it has an entente cordiale with France and Russia, it is not a formal military alliance committing it to war. However, a key factor in British policy is the neutrality of Belgium. Belgium's neutrality is guaranteed by the 1839 Treaty of London, signed by Great Britain, France, Prussia, Germany's predecessor, Austria, and Russia. This treaty ensures that Belgium, a small but strategically vital nation, remains outside any conflict. Germany, however, has a secret plan, the Schlieffen Plan, which dictates that any war with France must involve a rapid sweep through Belgium to bypass the heavily fortified Franco-German border. This strategic necessity trumps any treaty obligations in the eyes of the German High Command. On August 2, 1914, Germany presents an ultimatum to Belgium, demanding free passage for its troops through Belgian territory, claiming it is necessary to preempt a French attack. Belgium, despite its small size, bravely refuses, invoking its neutrality and sovereignty. King Albert I of Belgium declares his nation will defend its borders, to the last man. The German invasion of Belgium begins on August 4, 1914. German troops pour across the border, violating Belgian neutrality and immediately encountering unexpected resistance from the small but determined Belgian army. This act of aggression provides Great Britain with the moral and legal justification it needs to enter the war. The violation of Belgian neutrality is seen as a clear breach of international law and a direct threat to British strategic interests. On August 4, 1914, at 11:00 p.m. GMT, Great Britain declares war on Germany. Prime Minister H.H. Asquith announces the decision to a somber House of Commons. The British Expeditionary Force, BEF, is immediately prepared for deployment to the continent. Simultaneously, Germany launches its full-scale invasion of France, moving its vast armies across the Belgian frontier and into French territory. The Western Front, a brutal theater of war that will define the conflict for the next 4 years, is now officially open. The world stands on the precipice of an unprecedented global catastrophe, ignited by a single assassination in a distant Balkan city. The dominoes have fallen, one after another, leading Europe, and soon the world, into a conflagration that will reshape the 20th century. The German invasion of Belgium and France in August 1914 quickly unveils the brutal reality of modern warfare. The Schlieffen Plan, designed for a swift victory over France, hinges on speed and overwhelming force. German forces, numbering over 1 million men, sweep through Belgium, encountering fierce, though ultimately futile, resistance from the Belgian army. The fortified city of Liege, with its 12 formidable forts, holds out for 12 days, from August 5th to 16th, slowing the German advance and earning the Belgians international admiration. German heavy artillery, particularly the massive 42 cm Big Bertha howitzers, pulverizes the Belgian defenses, demonstrating the devastating power of new weaponry. As the German juggernaut pushes into northern France, the British Expeditionary Force, BEF, of approximately 70,000 professional soldiers lands in France and moves to meet the German advance. The first major engagement between British and German forces occurs at Mons, Belgium, on August 23, 1914. The small but highly trained BEF, armed with their Lee-Enfield rifles, inflicts heavy casualties on the numerically superior German First Army, commanded by General Alexander von Kluck. Despite their tactical success, the British are forced to retreat due to the overwhelming German numbers and the collapse of the French Fifth Army on their right flank. This begins the Great Retreat, a 2-week withdrawal of Allied forces across northern France, with the Germans in relentless pursuit. Panic grips Paris as the German armies approach, reaching within 40 miles of the capital by early September. The French government evacuates to Bordeaux, and the city prepares for a siege. However, the rapid German advance also creates vulnerabilities. The German First Army, under von Kluck, swings southeast, away from Paris, in an attempt to encircle the retreating French and British forces. This movement exposes its right flank to the untouched French Sixth Army, positioned north of Paris, commanded by General Michel-Joseph Monnery. General Joseph Joffre, the French commander-in-chief, seizes this critical opportunity. On September 6, 1914, he orders a counteroffensive along the Marne River. The Battle of the Marne is a desperate, decisive struggle. French troops are famously rushed to the front lines from Paris in a fleet of 600 Parisian taxis, a symbolic act of national resolve. For 4 days, from September 6th to 10th, the Allied forces, including the French 5th and 6th Armies and the BEF, engage the German 1st and 2nd Armies. The battle is a tactical triumph for the Allies. The German advance is halted, and their Schlieffen Plan, which demanded a swift victory in the West, is irrevocably broken. The Germans are forced to retreat to the Aisne River, where they begin to dig in, establishing defensive positions. This marks the end of the War of Movement on the Western Front and the beginning of a prolonged stalemate. Both sides then engage in the race to the sea, a series of flanking maneuvers and countermaneuvers as they attempt to outflank each other, extending their trench lines northward towards the English Channel. By late October 1914, a continuous line of trenches stretches over 400 miles, from the North Sea coast of Belgium to the Swiss frontier. The Western Front has solidified into a brutal, static battleground. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, the war unfolds with a different character. Russia's vast armies, though slow to mobilize, launch offensives into East Prussia and Galicia in August 1914. The Russian First Army, under General Paul von Rennenkampf, advances into East Prussia, while the Russian Second Army, under General Alexander Samsonov, moves to support it. Germany, despite committing the majority of its forces to the Western Front, dispatches General Paul von Hindenburg and his chief of staff, General Erich Ludendorff, to command the German Eighth Army in the east. They achieve a stunning victory at the Battle of Tannenberg from August 26 to 30th, 1914. Through brilliant tactical maneuvering and the interception of unencrypted Russian radio communications, the Germans encircle and virtually annihilate the Russian Second Army, capturing over 92,000 prisoners and killing or wounding another 50,000. General Samsonov commits suicide. A few weeks later, at the First Battle of the Masurian Lakes, from September 9th to 14th, 1914, the German Eighth Army inflicts another defeat on the Russian First Army, forcing it to retreat from East Prussia. These German victories, however, come at a cost, as they require the diversion of 2 corps from the Western Front, potentially weakening the German offensive during the critical Battle of the Marne. Further south, on the Austro-Hungarian-Russian front, the initial fighting is more mixed. The Austro-Hungarian army suffers heavy defeats at the hands of the Russians in Galicia, particularly during the Battle of Lemberg in September 1914, losing hundreds of thousands of men and vast territories. Serbia also proves to be a tenacious opponent, repelling 2 Austro-Hungarian invasions in 1914. The Balkan front becomes another bloody stalemate. In October 1914, the Ottoman Empire, under the influence of its pro-German war minister Enver Pasha, officially enters the war on the side of the Central Powers. This opens new fronts in the Caucasus against Russia, and in Mesopotamia and the Sinai against the British Empire. The entry of the Ottoman Empire further globalizes the conflict, particularly with its control over the strategically vital Dardanelles Strait, which connects the Black Sea to the Mediterranean and is a crucial supply route for Russia. As 1914 draws to close, the character of the war becomes clear: a grinding, attritional struggle. On the Western Front, the trenches deepen and elaborate, becoming complex networks of dugouts, barbed wire, and machine gun nests. Life in the trenches is brutal, marked by constant shelling, sniper fire, disease, and the pervasive threat of death. Mud, rats, and the stench of decay are ever present. Attempts to break the stalemate, such as the First Battle of Ypres in October-November 1914, result in horrific casualties for minimal territorial gains. The Christmas Truce of 1914, where soldiers from opposing sides briefly emerge from their trenches to exchange greetings, songs, and even play football, offers a fleeting, poignant glimpse of shared humanity amidst the savagery. But it is an anomaly, quickly suppressed by the high commands. The year 1915 witnesses a series of costly and largely unsuccessful offensives on the Western Front, as both sides grapple with the realities of trench warfare. The French launch offensives in Artois and Champagne, while the British attack at Neuve-Chapelle and lose. These battles, such as the Second Battle of Artois in May 1915, result in hundreds of thousands of casualties for advances often measured in mere yards. The Germans introduce poison gas as a weapon at the Second Battle of Ypres in April 1915, deploying chlorine gas against French and Algerian colonial troops. The gas causes panic and horrific suffering, but the lack of follow-up reserves prevents a decisive breakthrough. The Allies quickly develop gas masks, and chemical warfare becomes another horrific, if indecisive, element of the conflict. The Eastern Front in 1915 sees a dramatic shift. Germany, recognizing the weakness of its Austro-Hungarian ally, focuses significant resources there. The Gorlice-Darno offensive, launched by the Central Powers in May 1915, achieves a spectacular breakthrough against the Russians. Under the command of General August von Mackensen, German and Austro-Hungarian forces push the Russians back hundreds of miles, recapturing Galicia and taking vast swathes of Poland and Lithuania. Russia suffers catastrophic losses, with over 1 million casualties and prisoners. This Great Retreat of 1915 severely cripples the Russian army, though its immense size prevents a complete collapse. Italy, a member of the Triple Alliance with Germany and Austria-Hungary before the war, declares its neutrality in 1914, citing the defensive nature of the alliance. However, enticed by promises of territorial gains from the Entente powers, Britain, France, and Russia, Italy signs the secret Treaty of London in April 1915 and declares war on Austria-Hungary in May 1915. This opens a new front along the mountainous Austro-Italian border, known as the Alpine Front or the Isonzo Front. The terrain makes warfare incredibly difficult, and the subsequent battles of the Isons, 11 of them between 1915 and 1917, become another bloody stalemate, characterized by brutal mountain fighting and immense casualties. In an attempt to break the stalemate on the Western Front and open a new supply route to Russia, the Allies launched the Gallipoli Campaign in April 1915. This ambitious amphibious landing, primarily by British, Australian, New Zealand, and French forces, aims to capture the Dardanelles Strait and the Ottoman capital of Constantinople. However, the campaign is poorly planned and executed, facing determined Ottoman resistance led by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. The Allied forces become bogged down on the beaches and hills of the Gallipoli Peninsula, enduring 8 months of brutal trench warfare, disease, and heavy casualties. After suffering over 250,000 casualties, the Allies are forced to evacuate in January 1916, a humiliating defeat. By 1916, the war has become a global struggle of attrition. Both sides seek a decisive breakthrough. On the Western Front, Germany launches a massive offensive against the French fortress city of Verdun in February 1916. The German objective, as articulated by Chief of the General Staff Erich von Falkenhayn, is to bleed France white by launching an attack that the French cannot afford to abandon. The Battle of Verdun becomes the longest single battle of the war, lasting from February 21 to December 18, 1916. It is a brutal, relentless struggle for a series of forts and hills, fought with unprecedented artillery bombardments. French resistance, under the rallying cry, "They shall not pass," "On n'y passe pas," attributed to General Robert Nivelle, is fierce. Both sides suffer enormous casualties, estimated at over 300,000 French and 280,000 German dead, wounded, or missing. Verdun becomes a symbol of French tenacity and the sheer horror of modern warfare. To relieve pressure on Verdun, the British and French launch a massive joint offensive on the Somme River in July 1916. The Battle of the Somme, lasting from July 1 to November 18, 1916, is one of the bloodiest battles in human history. On the first day alone, the British Army suffers nearly 57,000 casualties, including 19,240 killed, making it the deadliest day in British military history. Despite the horrific losses, the battle achieves little strategic gain, with Allied forces advancing only a few miles at immense cost. The Somme becomes synonymous with the futility and slaughter of trench warfare. At sea, the major naval powers clash in the Battle of Jutland, off the coast of Denmark, on May 31, 1916. This is the only full-scale fleet engagement of the war, pitting the British Grand Fleet against the German High Seas Fleet. While the British suffer heavier ship losses and more casualties, the German fleet remains largely confined to port for the remainder of the war, unable to break the British blockade. The blockade, in turn, slowly chokes Germany's economy and food supply, contributing to growing unrest on the home front. On the Eastern Front in 1916, Russia launches its most successful offensive of the war, the Brusilov Offensive, in June. Under the brilliant command of General Alexei Brusilov, Russian forces achieve a spectacular breakthrough against the Austro-Hungarian lines, advancing deep into Austrian territory and inflicting millions of casualties. However, the offensive, while a tactical triumph, is unsustainable. Russia's logistical capabilities are stretched to their limit, and the immense losses further destabilize the already fragile Tsarist regime. The offensive also forces Germany to divert troops from the Western Front, indirectly contributing to the Allied efforts at the Somme and Verdun. As the war grinds on, the United States maintains its neutrality, though public opinion is increasingly divided. President Woodrow Wilson is re-elected in November 1916 on the slogan, "He kept us out of war." However, several factors begin to push the U.S. closer to intervention. German unrestricted submarine warfare, which involves sinking merchant ships without warning, poses a direct threat to American shipping and lives. The sinking of the British passenger liner RMS Lusitania in May 1915, with 128 American citizens among the nearly 1,200 dead, sparks widespread outrage in the U.S. Germany temporarily curbs its submarine warfare after American protests. However, by early 1917, facing the prospect of a prolonged war of attrition and hoping to starve Britain into submission, Germany resumes unrestricted submarine warfare on February 1, 1917. This decision is a calculated risk, knowing it will likely draw the United States into the war. Germany believes it can defeat Britain and France before American intervention can make a decisive difference. Then, in late February 1917, British intelligence intercepts and decodes a secret diplomatic communication from German Foreign Secretary Arthur Zimmermann to the German ambassador in Mexico. This Zimmermann telegram proposes a military alliance between Germany and Mexico in the event of the United States entering the war. Germany promises to help Mexico recover its lost territories of Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. The telegram is leaked to the American press on March 1, 1917, igniting a firestorm of public anger and outrage. The combination of unrestricted submarine warfare and the Zimmermann telegram, seen as a direct threat to American national security and sovereignty, proves to be the tipping point. President Wilson, who had long sought to avoid entanglement in the European conflict, now sees war as inevitable. On April 2, 1917, he delivers a powerful address to Congress, asking for a declaration of war against Germany, stating that the world must be made safe for democracy. After intense debate, both houses of Congress vote in favor of war. On April 6, 1917, the United States formally declares war on Germany, forever altering the trajectory of the global conflict. The decision, though delayed, is a monumental shift, bringing the immense industrial and manpower resources of America into the Allied camp. Yet this intervention will not be immediate. The U.S. Army, numbering just over 200,000 men, is woefully unprepared for the scale of modern warfare. A massive mobilization effort begins, with the Selective Service Act of May 1917 introducing conscription, ultimately drafting nearly 2.8 million men. General John J. Pershing is appointed commander of the American Expeditionary Forces, AEF, tasked with transforming raw recruits into combat-ready soldiers. Across the Atlantic, the war continues its brutal course. On the Western Front, the French, under the new command of General Robert Nivelle, launch a massive offensive in April 1917, known as the Nivelle Offensive. Nivelle promises a swift, decisive breakthrough, but the German defenses, strengthened by a strategic retreat to the formidable Hindenburg Line, Siegfriedstellung in March, prove impregnable. The offensive, particularly the attack on the Chemin des Dames Ridge, results in catastrophic French casualties, estimated at over 120,000 in just 10 days. The failure triggers widespread mutinies among the French troops, who are exhausted and demoralized by years of futile slaughter. General Philippe Pétain, the hero of Verdun, replaces Nivelle and restores order through a combination of harsh discipline and improved conditions. But the French army's offensive capacity is severely diminished for the remainder of the year. Meanwhile, the British, under Field Marshal Douglas Haig, launched the Third Battle of Ypres, commonly known as Passchendaele, in July 1917. The objective is to capture the Passchendaele Ridge and clear the Belgian coast of German submarine bases. The battle unfolds in the infamous Flanders mud, churned into a quagmire by relentless shelling and heavy rains. Soldiers drown in the mud, and advances are measured in yards, costing hundreds of thousands of lives. The fighting is particularly horrific around the village of Passchendaele itself. By November, when the offensive finally grinds to a halt, the British and their allies have suffered an estimated 250,000 to 400,000 casualties for minimal strategic gain. Passchendaele becomes another grim symbol of the Western Front's attrition. On the Eastern Front, a different kind of collapse is unfolding. The immense strain of the war, coupled with endemic corruption and incompetence, has brought the Russian Empire to its knees. In March 1917, widespread food shortages and growing discontent in Petrograd, St. Petersburg, ignite the February Revolution. Tsar Nicholas II abdicates, ending centuries of Romanov rule, and a provisional government takes power, vowing to continue the war. However, the Russian army, demoralized and riddled with revolutionary fervor, is disintegrating. Soldiers desert en masse, and discipline collapses. The Kerensky Offensive, launched in July 1917 by the provisional government under Minister of War Alexander Kerensky, is a last, desperate attempt to revive the Russian war effort. It initially achieves some local successes, but quickly falters, turning into a disastrous retreat. Amidst this chaos, radical socialist factions, particularly the Bolsheviks led by Vladimir Lenin, gain increasing influence by promising peace, land, and bread. Lenin, who had been living in exile, returns to Russia in April 1917 with German assistance, as Germany hopes to further destabilize its eastern enemy. In November 1917, the Bolsheviks seize power in the October Revolution, overthrowing the provisional government. Their first priority is to end Russia's involvement in the war. Negotiations with the Central Powers begin almost immediately. In December 1917, an armistice is signed between Russia and the Central Powers, leading to the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk in March 1918. Under its harsh terms, Russia cedes vast territories, including Poland, Ukraine, Finland, and the Baltic states, to Germany and Austria-Hungary, losing a quarter of its population and much of its industrial and agricultural capacity. For Germany, this treaty is a triumph, freeing up nearly 50 divisions for redeployment to the Western Front. The race to the Western Front begins as the Central Powers rush to exploit their newfound advantage before American troops can arrive in force. While the Eastern Front dissolves, new fronts and tactics emerge. In Italy, the Austro-Hungarian and German forces launch a devastating counteroffensive at Caporetto in October 1917. Using new infiltration tactics and concentrating artillery, they achieve a spectacular breakthrough against the Italian Second Army, pushing them back over 100 kilometers and inflicting over 300,000 casualties, including 275,000 prisoners. The Italian front almost collapses, saved only by French and British reinforcements and a desperate stand on the Piave River. This defeat highlights the effectiveness of combined arms tactics and the fragility of even entrenched lines when faced with innovative assault. In the Middle East, the British continue their advance against the Ottoman Empire. General Edmund Allenby's forces, including the legendary T.E. Lawrence and his Arab allies, captured Jerusalem in December 1917, a significant morale boost for the Allies and a blow to Ottoman prestige. Meanwhile, in Mesopotamia, British forces are pushing north from Basra, capturing Baghdad in March 1917. The Ottoman Empire, stretched thin and exhausted, is slowly crumbling. At sea, German unrestricted submarine warfare initially takes a devastating toll on Allied shipping. In April 1917 alone, U-boats sink nearly 900,000 tons of Allied merchant shipping, threatening to starve Britain into submission. However, the Allies implement the convoy system, where merchant ships travel in large groups protected by naval escorts. This proves highly effective, drastically reducing shipping losses and allowing the flow of vital supplies and American troops to Europe. The tide turns in the Battle of the Atlantic, and Germany's gamble on submarine warfare ultimately fails to achieve its strategic objective. As 1918 dawns, the strategic landscape is poised for a decisive confrontation. Germany, now unburdened by the Eastern Front, prepares for a massive offensive on the Western Front, known as the Spring Offensive or the Kaiserschlacht, Kaiser's Battle. The goal is to deliver a knockout blow to the British and French before the full weight of American manpower and resources can be brought to bear. General Erich Ludendorff, first quartermaster general and the de facto commander of the German army, masterminds the offensive, deploying new stormtrooper tactics. Small, highly trained units that bypass strongpoints and penetrate deep into enemy lines, disrupting command and control. The Spring Offensive begins on March 21, 1918, with Operation Michael, a massive assault against the British Fifth Army in Picardy. Preceded by a short, intense artillery bombardment using gas and high explosives, German stormtroopers achieve spectacular initial successes, pushing the British back up to 60 kilometers in some areas. The Allies are caught off guard, and for the first time since 1914, the trench lines are broken, and a war of movement returns. Ludendorff launches a series of subsequent offensives. Operation Georgette, Battle of the Lies in April against the British in Flanders, Operation Blücherjoch in May against the French along the Aisne, and Operation Gneisenau in June, a linking attack. Each offensive initially achieves significant gains, creating massive salients in the Allied lines. Paris itself comes under long-range German artillery fire from the Paris gun, Kaiser Wilhelm Jeschütz. However, the German offensive ultimately falters. Despite their tactical brilliance, the stormtroopers outrun their supply lines, leading to exhaustion and lack of fresh reserves. The Allies, though severely shaken, consolidate their defenses, and American troops begin to arrive in significant numbers, bolstering their ranks. General Ferdinand Foch is appointed Supreme Commander of the Allied armies in March 1918, providing much-needed unified command. The German army, after 4 years of war, is also exhausted. Its best troops have been sacrificed in the initial assaults, and replacements are increasingly young and poorly trained. The turning point comes in July 1918, with the Second Battle of the Marne. Following a final German thrust towards Paris, a combined French and American counterattack, spearheaded by tanks, surprises the Germans and pushes them back. This marks the end of the German Spring Offensive and the beginning of the Allied counteroffensive. On August 8, 1918, the Allies launched the Battle of Amiens, described by Ludendorff as the Black Day of the German army. A surprise attack by British, Australian, Canadian, and French forces, supported by hundreds of tanks, achieves a decisive breakthrough, advancing 12 miles in a single day and capturing thousands of German prisoners. The German morale collapses, and Ludendorff recognizes that the war is lost. The next 100 days, from August 8 to November 11, become known as the 100 Days Offensive. The Allies, now reinforced by over 1 million American troops and equipped with superior artillery, tanks, and aircraft, launch a series of relentless, coordinated offensives along the entire Western Front. The American Expeditionary Forces, under General Pershing, play a crucial role, first at the Battle of San Miguel in September, where they eliminate a long-standing German salient, and then in the massive Meuse-Argonne offensive, which begins on September 26. This offensive, involving over 1.2 million American soldiers, is the largest in U.S. military history and pushes through heavily fortified German positions, contributing significantly to the collapse of the Hindenburg Line. The German army, exhausted, demoralized, and facing overwhelming Allied strength, is in full retreat. Discipline breaks down, and desertions increase. The home front in Germany is also in crisis, with severe food shortages, widespread unrest, and a growing desire for peace. President Woodrow Wilson's 14 points, outlining a vision for a just and lasting peace, offer a glimmer of hope for a negotiated settlement. The Central Powers begin to unravel. Bulgaria, facing an Allied offensive in Macedonia, signs an armistice on September 29, 1918. The Ottoman Empire, its forces defeated in Palestine and Mesopotamia, signs the Armistice of Mudros on October 30. Austria-Hungary, facing internal collapse as its various ethnic minorities declare independence, and suffering devastating defeats on the Italian front in the Battle of Vittorio Veneto, signs the Armistice of Villa Giusti on November 3. In Germany, the military high command informs Kaiser Wilhelm II that the war is unwinnable. Naval mutinies erupt in Kiel on October 29, spreading rapidly and transforming into a widespread revolution. Workers' and soldiers' councils form across the country. On November 9, Kaiser Wilhelm II abdicates and flees to the Netherlands, ending the German monarchy. A new German republic is proclaimed. The new German government immediately seeks an armistice. Negotiations are held in a railway carriage in the forest of Compiègne, France, between Allied Supreme Commander Marshal Foch and German representatives. The terms are harsh, demanding German withdrawal from all occupied territories, surrender of vast quantities of military equipment, and renunciation of the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. After intense debate, the German delegation, facing imminent invasion and complete societal collapse, has no choice but to accept. At 5:00 a.m. on November 11, 1918, the Armistice of Compiègne is signed. At 11:00 a.m. on November 11, 1918, the guns on the Western Front fall silent. An eerie quiet descends upon the devastated landscapes that have echoed with the thunder of artillery and machine gun fire for over 4 years. Soldiers cautiously emerge from their trenches, some bewildered, some weeping, others simply numb. The Great War, a conflict that had consumed nations and reshaped the world, is finally over. The armistice, however, is merely a cessation of hostilities, not a peace treaty. That monumental task falls to the victorious Allied powers, who gather in Paris in January 1919 for the Paris Peace Conference. 32 nations are represented, but the real power resides with the Big Four. President Woodrow Wilson of the United States, Prime Minister David Lloyd George of Great Britain, Premier Georges Clemenceau of France, and Prime Minister Vittorio Orlando of Italy. Their task is immense and fraught with conflicting agendas. President Wilson arrives with his vision of a new world order, famously articulated in his 14 points, advocating for self-determination, open diplomacy, freedom of the seas, and the creation of a League of Nations to prevent future wars. He believes in a peace without victors, a reconciliation that would foster global cooperation. Clemenceau, the Tiger of France, holds a starkly different view. France has suffered immensely, with its northern industrial heartland devastated and millions of its young men dead. He demands retribution, security, and severe punishment for Germany, seeking to cripple its military and economic power to ensure France's future safety. Lloyd George of Britain, while sympathetic to French security concerns, is also wary of pushing Germany too far, fearing it could destabilize Europe further and foster resentment. Orlando of Italy focuses primarily on securing the territorial gains promised in the secret Treaty of London. The negotiations are lengthy, often acrimonious, and ultimately shaped by these competing interests. The Treaty of Versailles, the most significant of the peace treaties, dealing specifically with Germany, is signed on June 28, 1919, exactly 5 years after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. It is a punitive document designed to hold Germany responsible for the war. Key provisions include territorial losses. Germany loses Alsace-Lorraine to France, Eupen-Malmedy to Belgium, and West Prussia and Posen to Poland, among other smaller territories. The Saarland is placed under League of Nations administration for 15 years, and the Rhineland is demilitarized. Colonial losses. All German colonies are stripped and distributed among the Allied powers as mandates under the League of Nations. Military restrictions. The German army is limited to 100,000 men, conscription is forbidden, and the navy is severely restricted. Germany is prohibited from possessing an air force, submarines, or heavy artillery. Reparations. Germany is forced to pay massive reparations to the Allied powers for war damages. The exact sum is not initially set, but is later fixed at 132 billion gold marks in 1921, a sum widely regarded as economically crippling. War Guilt Clause, Article 231. This clause, deeply resented by Germans, states that Germany and its allies accept full responsibility for causing all the loss and damage of the war. Separate treaties are signed with the other Central Powers. The Treaty of Saint-Germain-en-Laye with Austria, the Treaty of Trianon with Hungary, the Treaty of Neuilly-sur-Seine with Bulgaria, and the Treaty of Sèvres, later superseded by the Treaty of Lausanne, with the Ottoman Empire. These treaties dismantle the old empires, creating new nation-states based on the principle of self-determination, though often with significant ethnic minorities within their new borders. The Austro-Hungarian Empire is broken into Austria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, and parts of Yugoslavia, while the Ottoman Empire is largely dismembered, leading to the creation of modern Turkey and British and French mandates in the Middle East. The League of Nations, President Wilson's cherished creation, is established as an international organization to promote peace and cooperation. However, its effectiveness is immediately hampered by the refusal of the United States Senate to ratify the Treaty of Versailles, largely due to concerns over Article X, which committed members to defend each other's independence. Without the participation of its primary architect, the League struggles from its inception, lacking the moral and military authority to enforce its decisions. The immediate aftermath of the war is a period of immense upheaval and suffering. An estimated 15 to 22 million people, both military and civilian, are killed, making it one of the deadliest conflicts in human history. Millions more are wounded, maimed, or traumatized. The economic cost is staggering, with widespread destruction, crippled industries, and massive national debts. Europe's political map is redrawn, but the seeds of future conflicts are sown. In Germany, the Treaty of Versailles is perceived as a diktat, a dictated peace, fueling deep resentment and a sense of national humiliation. The stab-in-the-back myth, propagated by right-wing elements, falsely claims that the German army was not defeated on the battlefield, but betrayed by politicians and Jews on the home front. This narrative, combined with the economic hardship caused by reparations and hyperinflation in the early 1920s, creates a fertile ground for extremist ideologies to flourish. The war also has profound social and cultural impacts. It shatters the optimism and belief in progress that characterized the pre-war era. A generation of young men is lost, leaving a void in society. Women, who had stepped into roles traditionally held by men during the war, gain new social and political freedoms, including the right to vote in many countries. Art, literature, and philosophy grapple with the trauma and disillusionment of the conflict, giving rise to movements like modernism. Technological advancements spurred by the war, from aviation to medicine, continue to shape the post-war world. The use of tanks, aircraft, and chemical weapons forever changes the nature of warfare. The war also accelerates the decline of European imperial power, as colonial subjects who fought for their empires return home with new demands for self-rule. The legacy of World War I is complex and far-reaching. It directly contributes to the rise of totalitarian regimes in Germany, Italy, and the Soviet Union. The unresolved issues, territorial disputes, and economic grievances left by the peace treaties, particularly the Treaty of Versailles, are crucial factors in the outbreak of World War II just 2 decades later. The League of Nations, while failing to prevent another global conflict, lays the groundwork for future international organizations like the United Nations. World War I was a cataclysm that fundamentally altered the course of the 20th century. It began with an act of violence in a seemingly peripheral corner of Europe, escalated through a rigid system of alliances, and ended with a peace that, for many, felt like a prelude to the next great conflagration. The scars of the Great War, both physical and psychological, would endure for generations, a stark reminder of humanity's capacity for destruction and the enduring quest for a lasting peace.